Hi YouTubers, it's Fortune Cookie 45 LC coming to you from the range. And my, it's early in the morning and I'm the only one here on the outdoor range. There are people shooting on the indoor range, but I'm the only one on the outdoor range. Anyway, so here we are, targets all set up, and for a lot of you who practice safety at the range, this is already well-known information, but let's just go over some of these things in case you haven't given it a whole lot of thought. We see a lot of shooters come to the range and they put their case down, and when they open their case up, some of their guns are actually pointing back in this direction, like this. So when they open the case up, here are other shooters behind us walking around, and the shooter has picked the gun up and is actually pointing back toward the other shooters. So if you should orient the case so that when you open it up, the guns are already pointing down range. So all you gotta do is pick up the gun and open the actions up and take them out and put them right on the shooting table. Like so. Or another way to do it is to take out only the one that's pointing down range and then take the case and flip it around and open it up and then take the other one out, and then it will be pointing down range also. So these are just some finer points of gun case handling at the range. Now what you don't also want to do is you don't want to open up the cases way in the back here where people are crossing and take your guns out and then walk across people with your gun in your hand. You want to take the case to the firing line, take the guns out, and then go from there. So once again, we'll open this case up, make a little bit of room here. And you see this case actually is a 4-pistol case because there's a second layer, and voila, we have more guns underneath. So once again, let's make a little bit of room. So all guns are facing downrange at all times. Now what we're going to talk about this morning before we get started shooting. So all the guns are clear. So what we're going to talk about today is the difference between a Colt or Colt clone and the Ruger single action pistols. So this is a Colt clone. It's a Beretta Stampede in .45 long Colt. And so is this one. In cowboy action, you need to have 2 guns, or 2 6 guns, to compete. So anyway, what we have here, the Beretta Stampede in .45 long Colt, single action only, of course, side gate loading, and the way this works is the pistol has to be put on half cock, and what that does is it drops the bolt so that the cylinder can turn. So then you open the loading gate. A nice feature is that the cylinder has a reverse pulse so that when it clicks, it's lined up to put the cartridge in. You don't have to look at it. Typically, we want to load 1, then skip 1, then load 4. Now once the 4th one's gone in, that's 5 in the cylinder, you bring the pistol to full cock and then lower it onto an empty chamber. And you've got 5 shots with the hammer resting on an empty chamber. Now, the Beretta happens to be made so that you can load 6 rounds safely, because it has a transfer bar, so there's no contact at the firing pin with the primer or the cartridge underneath. So it's safe to carry this with 6 loaded. But there's a problem with that. The problem is, if you put it on half cock and then load 6, it's not recommended to simply take the hammer back and then lower it down. These actions are intended that when you're at half cock, you always want to go to full cock and then lower it down. You don't want to go down from half cock. It's not good for the mechanism. Well, what that does though is, if you got 6 loaded and you're at half cock, when you bring it to full cock, there is a momentary unsafety here, because if your thumb slips off the hammer, the gun goes off. So it demands a real good attention of the shooter. If you're gonna load 6, that then when you go to full cock, I like to put my thumb in here so that it can't slip off, and then lower it down easy. And that will give you a little extra safety. Otherwise, if you can't handle it properly, just load the 5 as we did before, and hammer down on empty chamber, because then it's completely safe. Now, the Ruger gets away from that, because the Ruger, when you open the loading gate, that drops the bolt so the cylinder can freely turn. You don't have the advantage of the reverse pull. So when you go click, you've already gone past the chamber, you can't load it. So you actually have to physically or visually center the open chamber to load your rounds. You can't go by the clicks. So there's a little bit of inconvenience to some Rugers. Certain Rugers have the reverse pulse, so it's not a problem for them. But for the Ruger Blackhawk, it doesn't have reverse pulse, so you've got to visually line the chambers up. But the advantage is you can load 6 and then close the loading gate, and there's no manipulation of the hammer, so it's completely safe to load in that manner. So the Ruger has an advantage there to that. However, with safe gun handling, the Colts are fine, or the Beretta Stampede, or any of the Colt clones that use the half-cock notch. So YouTubers, take care, have fun with your single actions, and hear more shooters out at the range now. So we're going to sign off. Bye for now.